Welcome back, listeners, and to those watching. I'm so excited about today's guest segment. We're going to jump right in like we usually do. I'm going to hand it over to my guest to introduce herself. Can you tell us who you are?
Yes, and thank you for having me. My name is Cara Shortsleeve, and the who am I question. So many layers. What I do in my day job, I'm the CEO of a business called the Leadership Consortium, and we are a leadership development platform, most predominantly to accelerate women and people of color. That's my day job, who I am as rest of human. I live in the Boston area. I've got a great husband and 3 kids. I'm an outdoor enthusiast. So if you're looking for me and I'm not picking up my phone, I'm probably deep in the woods on a run. And that's a little bit about who I am.
I love it. I did not know you were an outdoor enthusiast. I appreciate that.
There you go.
And Cara, can you tell us about how you would describe the space or spaces in which you're currently having an impact?
Yes. So currently the way I think about it is I'm in the human acceleration business. So what I do most specifically is really work with leaders from a lot of wonderful different companies. We bring those leaders together and really do hard, fun work as a group to help those leaders become an even better and more effective version of themselves. So that's the area I would say most specifically. Broadly, I've grown up in the tech industry. I have a lot of passion around technology as a way to enable access and sort of democratize access to things. And so broadly, as I think about impact, the other thing I think about is how can we more broadly bring opportunity to more corners of every city and all over the world. And so that's the other lens I always think about from an inclusion and diversity standpoint. That's a little bit about the places where I'm having impact.
Yeah, I want to pull a little bit of a thread on that because I've benefited from your impact through TLC as both a participant and now as a coach for the program. And to hear you talk about enablement and also understanding the mission of TLC, the Leadership Consortium, being about accelerating development. I'm curious, where did this interest, and I'm going to use the word passion because it's palpable when you talk about it. Where did that come from?
Oh, it's been deep within me, I feel like, for a very long time. So it's interesting when I look back at some of the threads in my life, I've always been really interested in connections. So like what helps each one of us, what sort of serves each one of us, what helps us each one of us grow, how we can collaborate and work together. And that has been from a young child through a lot of sports and team oriented. Like there's always just been this element of we do better when we're all working at it together. And there's a bit of we all pull each other along. So that thread of like understanding that we are really in service of each other, and you're only as fast as your slowest player, those types of things I feel like have always been with me. Professionally, how it came to life, I had spent time in sectors that maybe are not known necessarily for being the most equitable and inclusive. So I started in financial services and then sporting goods and ultimately technology. I felt very fortunate. I felt like I was provided a lot of opportunity and was able to succeed in those environments. But it was very evident to me that not everybody was sort of afforded the same opportunity and the same tools and the same access. And so going back to that concept of like, how we're all in this together, how do you pull others along? How do you bring like the strengths of the full team for the greatest benefit? Those types of things became more and more evident to me professionally. And so that is when I'd been in an amazing role at Google, which I loved. And I always say I like left a dream job for a dreamier job, but I left Google to start this business because I felt super passionately that there should be there should be somebody focused on ensuring we do accelerate all the humans. And I felt I was just as able and passionate as the next person to do that. So that's the long winding road. The kernels were always there, but that's how it came to life professionally.
Thank you for sharing that. And now a gazillion questions, but you said a couple of things. One, you said it was evident to you that not everybody had the same experience, and then leaving a dream job for a dreamier job to make sure. And you said it this way. I can do it. Like, it sounded like there was an assuredness that I can do this. And the whole thing to me sounds like exactly what we're trying to hone in on this season is whatever it is you're prioritizing, it's not about the perfection in it. It's about the consistency at that thing or the things. And so I'll go in reverse with my questions. How, throughout all of this, you've maintained consistency on this enablement and what sounds like acceleration for access. How have you kind of internalized that commitment to consistency or masterful execution?
The way I think about it is it's almost because I'm so passionate about it and I believe in it so well or so deeply, the having to work hard at it is less front of mind. So let me say it in this way: the things that, like, whether it was in an academic setting, whether it was in a sports setting, whether it was in a professional setting, regardless of the setting, I've always found like great joy and great success through interpersonal connections and the figuring out how do we pull in the different people to do the different things. So because I feel like it brings me joy and it's been a huge part of my success, there is some muscle memory that I am able to take with me. And I always say it's the type of things where if you don't have a good night's sleep or you're hungry, that's a skill set that's with me no matter what. Whereas others fall down a little bit. So not to say that I'm very conscious about it, but it is something that I'm able to be consistent about because I know how it makes me feel as a reward. Like, I feel good doing it and it helps me be really successful in what I do. And so part of it is, the psychology of, I know the things good for me and will do well. And so that helps me always focus on it, even, in times when perhaps I might not be as focused as I should be.
Yeah. I also appreciate how clear you are about this endeavor. Would you describe this as your purpose?
I think I always think about our purpose. Like, I think about my purpose in terms of what am I passionate about and what am I really good at? So when I think about purpose, there's a little bit of like head and heart combination. A great mentor of mine had always sort of talked to me early on about like where your head and your heart meet. Like, that's probably the place you're best served to do your work. And so I think of it that way, where it brings me, great joy, and I think I can deliver great value and service through it. So I think from a purpose standpoint, that feels very purposeful to me. Like, and I think it's a really fun purpose to think about, how do I give humans the ability to do their best work or be the best parent they can be, or be the best, whatever it is. And if there's a place I can play there, I think I love it, and it brings me, great joy. So I think of it a lot. Like, yes, from a purpose standpoint, I feel like I'm uniquely able to do it, and it, gives me an area to have impact.
Totally unfair question too, because that was not in the prep, but I appreciate it.
Of course.
I appreciate you shedding insight or light into that for us. So thank you for that. Is there, from your lens, especially at your senior level, with all of your experience and candidly what you're contributing to the world? I mean, just for our listeners, our viewers, I shared that I benefited from your leadership as a participant in the Leadership Consortium. This is a program that is all about the accelerated development of those underrepresented at senior levels in matrixed, complex, changing, ever-changing organizations, and we benefit from that. But when there's challenge in this endeavor, as a senior leader leading this particular charge, how do you manage to continue to stay consistent, operate with that masterful execution, honing in on what the feeling is, which I
Yeah.
love. It's about the feeling through the process. How do you maintain that on the days where it's hard?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I would always say is we're all like, everybody's gonna make mistakes, everybody's gonna break, everybody's gonna make missteps. So the
Yeah.
first thing I say is I absolutely, like, there are times when I know I'm not my best human, whether that's with my family or my colleagues or, whoever it may be. So the first thing I would say is just acknowledging that, like, we do want to be consistent and we
Yeah.
strive for it, and there will be times when we're not. And the best thing you can do is compress the time that you are upset with yourself about it and getting back to your A
Yeah.
game. So like my first thing is, like, you got to have a level of grace with yourself when you fall off the
Yeah.
tracks. And the best thing you can do is, you're probably always going to be disappointed, or whatever that feeling is. Best thing you can do is compress the cycle to get back in.
There you
That's the
go.
first thing I would say, which is, I like everybody else am never, I am not as consistent as I would hope in my ideal version.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I would say, like, the things that keep me on, maybe because I'm so human centered, there are certain humans I go to when I'm in, when I'm feeling inconsistent, and I say, here's how I feel like I'm showing up. Does this feel
Yeah.
like me? Are you still seeing me in this place? Like, so I will use people um, that I trust a lot of times as a barometer to say,
Yeah.
I'm feeling out of whack. Does it read that way to you? Or is this just a tough hour or two and I'm gonna get back on track?
Yeah. So what I hear the Cara formula is acknowledge, give yourself some grace
Yeah.
in order to compress the time where you're not on your A game,
Yeah.
and then check in with your tribe. Use them
Yeah.
as a barometer.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful. Um,
Yeah. And you need a good tribe. I mean, I think that's the most
yeah,
important thing as you get to senior levels. You're going to hear a lot more, at senior levels, you hear about the hard things, you hear about the problem, like, the work is hard. The work is hard at
yeah,
every level. I don't mean that, but just when I look back at my own trajectory, like, the problems get a little stickier. Um,
yeah.
like, the emotional tax gets a little heavier. And so I have just found it all the more important to have those humans, especially
Yeah,
outside of the business,
yeah.
that can help you, recharge and recenter.
I love that. Thank you for that formula. So when we think about this process of maintaining consistency and trying to make sure that you're truly upholding your own standard for self,
Yeah.
checking in with others is one thing, which is awesome and critically important. But there's this other kind of internal accountability that I'm always curious
Mm,
about. For myself, it is when I'm off my game, just that one phrase, "living fabulously fierce."
mm.
I know what that means to me. So it's also this kind of in the moment self accountability to how I want to show up. If you to think about your own self accountability with that in mind, if you had to finish the phrase living fabulously blank,
Yeah.
what would your word or phrase be?
I think it would be living fabulously related or connected
Mhm.
or human centered. I was trying to
Okay.
find a word. Maybe if I can add a hyphen, it would be a
Yes.
two word. Um, but it's just this element of, like, I am in my best self and am doing my best work and am feeling most consistent and living my purpose in those moments of connection. And so how do
Yeah.
I use that? Like, that should, to your point on be fierce, in my brain, it's living fabulously connected and who are the humans and how do I come back to the humans? If I'm ever if I'm ever off track, I bring it back to the people and then I start to sort back through it.
I have to relay this back to you because part of it is a thank you, and the other part is I think sometimes, again, at senior levels, it's hard to have those around us who will hold up the mirror. And so I'm having this moment of flashbacks to sessions in TLC, and now I'm seeing, whether intentional or not, you don't have to answer this, but every single case that we had to review, every debrief that we had, consistently, every single one employed a deep review of human connection. And so I think for me, I've always felt like, well, yeah, that's what you do when you're kind of reviewing a situation or case.
Right.
But to hear you say that, it now for me is like your fingerprint is literally in everything you touch. So to hear you
Yeah.
phrase it that way, it's like you can see Cara in your work, which is powerful because of how many people you
Right.
impact. So
Thank
just
you
I wanted
for the
to make sure
observation.
to
Yeah.
hear that. Yeah.
That's super thoughtful. And I think in a lot of ways, our hope for a lot of the folks who go through our programming is that they can pull the fact that so many of the things are really problems are they're human subjects, and
Yeah.
you can build a lot of other things. You can build some skill base and knowledge base, but figuring out how to get the humans connected and seen and empowered that's the real unlock for people. So I'm so glad you
Yeah.
felt some of that in the programming.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and it's funny because I felt that through the program, but listening to you as the visionary for it all, now I see you in all of it. Like it's there. And I don't want to give stuff away because if you want to learn about TLC, you should look up the Leadership Consortium.org and enroll your people in it. So I won't give it away, but the thread is there. And it's awesome. Again, hearing you say this and now kind of reflecting back, that's pretty powerful.
Neat.
Thank you for that inspiration too.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes. Thank you.
Of course. So my last question for you is, at this stage, when you think back over your experiences, over your life, all the wisdom and insights that you've
Right.
gleaned, if you did think back to the version of yourself at 21,
Yeah.
what is it that in the way of insight and wisdom that you have now that you absolutely need and want her to have, if you could relay that?
Yeah. I think what I would say is if if you have that good combination of head and heart, like trust the universe, the dots will connect. I think it's often hard to see when you're so early in your career, like how does this thing go? And if I do this, then, and what I would just say is, looking back, I probably spent emotional energy worrying about those things.
Yeah.
Versus trusting that I would make good decisions that were lined up with my values, and those would lead me to really fabulous places that I probably couldn't articulate. But it's those, there are dots that connect. You just can't see it, and you got to trust that you're like a good, fabulous, smart human. And if you honor your heart and your head, like it's gonna work out, and it's gonna be great. That's what I tell her. I tell her to stop stressing out so much.
So with that, for
Yeah.
the 21-year-olds who are listening right now
Yes.
and take that in
Yes.
and are maybe like someone in this conversation, maybe kind of need like one action to
Yeah.
put that into practice.
Yeah.
Is there one that you would offer?
I would say be present in the gig you're in, whatever it is, whether that's professionally or a relationship personally, like be present in the thing. You will learn, you will grow, you will know when it's time to move on from that thing.
Yeah.
Just be present in it, grow as the human, and those building blocks will start, you will start having them, but just, you got to be in the moment to give yourself the ability to grow into who you're going to be. So
you're a rock star.
Be in the thing.
Be
in the thing. Stay in the thing.
Be in the thing and stay in the thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I have to ask so folks can kind of follow up and just check in and learn more. Where can people go to learn more about the Leadership Consortium, about you, if they want to enroll, if
Definitely.
they represent a company that may want to sponsor?
Yes. So they can, I'm always delighted to connect with folks. So I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me, and I'm sure our paths will cross, and that would be delightful. If you want to learn about the Leadership Consortium, probably the best way is through our site. If you just shoot an email to the hello at alias, mostly because we've got lots of wonderful humans who, depending on your size of organization or your personal interests and goals, we can route you to the right person. But I'm always delighted to make that connection if it's not intuitive to somebody. So, and we're always, one of the beautiful things I get out of my work is I meet really, really outstanding people, you included. So I just get access to these amazing humans. And so trust that as a human-centered business, we're delighted to hear from you. And if we can't help you, we have so many fast friends to whom we can direct you as other great enablers of humans.
Oh, I like the back to that enablement. Just awesome. And just to make sure everyone understands, it's hello at theleadershipconsortium.org.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And
Perfect.
yep, that's great. And we'd be delighted to know you're out there.
Yes. Cara, thank you.
Thank you.
Listeners, this truly is a treat. With all that Cara has on her plate, just her yes was such a highlight for me. So this on top of your yes, and just this conversation that we're getting to share with everyone, truly, truly grateful, Cara. So thank you.
Thank you. And I have to tell your fabulous listeners that you are an exceptional part of the impact from TLC. So all the coaching you do and the ways you help us be a better business and a better organization. So thank you for that.
I'm honored to be part. So thank you, truly. So yes, thank you. And with that, listeners, wishing you a fabulous week ahead and encouraging you to continue to stay fierce. And we'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks again, Cara.